Have you decided how you're going to vote? Did he answer your question?
But I want to be clear with you guys. He's just someone, I've done extensive research on him as a person, read a lot about him. This is a fine, upstanding American with good character, with good intentions, who legitimately wants to serve his country. He's been nominated to what I believe is the second most important position in the U.S. Executive branch, the second most visible American on the planet, and from a government perspective. And so I intend to take this very seriously.
Senator, your last statement in there, was that advice to somebody who thinks it's going to be Secretary of State, or an indication that you won't actually be able to support him?
Well, I wouldn't read into either one. I think it's an indication of why the hearing, from my perspective, involved the questions that it did. It's not an effort to embarrass anyone. And this is a gentleman who didn't need to do this. I mean, he was headed for a very comfortable retirement, and the only reason he's doing this is because he loves America and wants to serve it. And I respect that deeply, and I wanted him to understand it. But I also wanted him to understand that these questions were designed for a very specific reason, and that is that if we're going to have moral clarity in our foreign policy, we need to be clear. And I don't want to see us move towards a foreign policy in which human rights only matters when nothing else matters, when something more important isn't standing in the way. Well, I'm prepared to do what's right. I'm not analyzing it from a partisan standpoint. I was elected by the people of Florida. I have a very clear view on foreign policy, both in my presidential race and in my re-election. I swore an oath about a week ago to protect, defend, and uphold the Constitution of this country, and that Constitution requires me to provide advice and to consent to the President's nominees. My view is that the President deserves wide latitude in their nominations, but the more important the position is, the less latitude they have. It's like a cone. It's really wide. In some positions, as it gets higher and higher, the discretion becomes more limited, and our scrutiny should become higher. And I consider this the highest of them all. To Russia. I just operate on what we know to be true, and I'm not going to allow. I think the Russians have already achieved a large objective of theirs, and that is to undermine the legitimacy of the president of our presidential election, pit us against each other. I think they're sitting back and saying, you know, we've got Americans fighting over our involvement in the elections. That's perfect. That undermines their democracy. We're going to take our job seriously. We're going to work hard to get to the truth. But I'm not going to be some active participant in furthering that division until all the truth is out, one way or the other.
You know, you can imagine somebody being brought in from another world, not having had those experiences, is going to want to be a little more cautious in his response to calling someone a war criminal or referring to other types of sanctions until he knows exactly what has happened. So I thought he handled himself well. I think tomorrow we'll have an opportunity to come back around and talk to some folks. I do, and I had met with him privately and had talked with him on the phone. And again, I don't think that I don't think his views about the nefarious activities Russia has been involved in are outside of the mainstream in any way. And I don't think people left here, by the way, feeling that, generally speaking.